Alrighty, we have for this session Superlink, our amazing new naming service that just launched recently. So we have here Matt and David. Let's hear from the two amazing guys here as they rock this session. All right. So I'll be back, guys, later, and we'll be helping out at Q&A.
Thanks, Anne.
Thanks, Anne. Hey, everybody. I'm Matt. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Superlink.
And I'm David William Bryan. I am also a co-founder of Superlink.
And I think we figured we'd maybe title this talk kind of the story of a million names, just because I think since we launched, that's the kind of conversation point that has been asked most of us. And I figured I'd just kick it off by asking David kind of how this whole thing got started, because it's been a pretty crazy journey. And I think when you and I met, the origin story was one of the things that really compelled me. So yeah, I'm just curious, how did you start on this journey of a million names?
Yeah, so I mean, this goes way back to very, very early Handshake. I think it was March 2020, and I'd recently lost my job in theatre because of the pandemic. A lot of people obviously lost their jobs. I lost my job. I was working in theatre. I was into sort of blockchain and all that tech on the side, and sort of really into it, but never sort of considered doing it professionally or anything like that. And I was touring around theatres and lost my job and went home, and I was trying to be useful to my wife. And I was painting my upstairs bedroom, and I happened to hear a podcast between Pomp and Tyson. And I was literally painting this wall, and I wasn't even supposed to listen to it. It just came on after another podcast randomly. I did not know at the time it would completely change my life. And so I'm painting this wall. And I'm just hearing this guy saying, oh, you don't have to have .com or .io. You could just have whatever you want. And I just literally stopped painting, and I was like, wait, what? And in the first 10 seconds of hearing that this was possible, just purely aesthetically at this point, I thought, well, if I could have davidbryan.com or david.bryan, then I would pick david.bryan. And even if a small percentage of people felt the same, I could start a business. Right. So I basically lost everything financially because of what had just happened to my theatre stuff. I had a couple of grand left to my name. I put the paint down immediately, like literally there and then, walked across the room, logged onto Namebase, and we've all had that moment where we're like, what is this? What are these auctions?
Yeah.
I don't understand what's going on. Why does this not work? Right, especially back then, right? It was so early. I think the auctions have been going for like, a few weeks at this point. And so at first, we were just sort of buying random stuff. I kind of forgot about my original thesis. I just got super excited, didn't understand the auctions, just buying loads of stuff. And then eventually I was like, okay, I need to rein this in, or I'm just going to buy literally everything. And so I thought, right, let's get structured here. If I'm going to go after last names, I need to create an index of every last name in the world and a way to value that. And so population seemed like the best primary metric to use. So made a giant index, and then it was a lot easier to sort of structure which names to go after. And so literally just buckled down. I thought, I'm either crazy or genius and probably nowhere in the middle. And I just literally dedicated like 24 hours a day to just collecting as many of these things as possible. Like literally I'd set my alarm at like 3 a.m. because, Dot Patel was coming up and like I really wanted to get it. But then it was done by blocks, and I'd wake up and I'd missed it 5 minutes before. And it was just this whole like emotional roller coaster. Yeah, the good old days. And then sort of fast forward 6 months, like everything's picking up, like the community's building. And then they introduced like the facility for people to actually like trade these things on like a secondary market. And like I woke up and I sold one of the names and I was like, holy moly, like this is actually a thing. Because then it became like a lot less isolating.
Yep.
And then I happened to stumble across an article that was about Jahan.
Wait. Hold on. Before we get to that, I just want to, I want to understand, like, did you feel like others were doing this? Did you feel like...
Yeah, it seemed like there was, but it seemed like it was just like a bit of like everyone sort of had their own idea of like what to collect. And I was like, well, I'm just going to. So the thing that attracted me about last names was I thought this is so infinite. I need like something with a supply that was like limited enough that I could embark on the crazy mission of trying to collect them all, but it still be like a huge thing. But then there's still scarcity that's quite defined within that niche.
Yeah.
So it made sense strategically. And when I stumbled across Jahan, that was the first moment that it sort of, I'd heard like these other things about, you get to own it and like all these other benefits, but it really was aesthetic for me at the beginning. I was like, this makes so much more sense, right?
It's still aesthetic for me. Like, I think that's a magical thing.
100%. But it's sort of morphed over time from that being like the main thing, right?
Yep.
And so I stumbled across an article about Jahan when he just purchased .nft, and then I looked up some videos of him and all the stuff he was saying. I was like, this all makes total sense. Like, started to see kind of the bigger picture about ownership and identity and like what all this meant.
Yeah.
And then
he was kind of legitimizing it too, right? Like in the 100%. Press, in the kind of broader ecosystem, here's a guy who's like invested in tens, hundreds of blockchain projects, and this is a big deal for him.
And look at his track record. Like, he's like super early with things and then they just pan out to be correct, right? I was like, this dude, like, I got to find this dude, right? Like, he's like the shining light in this situation. And so I literally tweeted at him. I was like, I've got something you might think is interesting. And then, got in the DMs, got on Zoom with him. And then it turns out that I was losing like the auctions to like the big names that I really wanted. And I was like absolutely like gutted about it. And I was sort of getting the long tail of like all the other names.
Yeah.
And then once I got on with Jahan, he was basically like the guy that had been like beating me in these auctions. And then it turned out that like we were super like aligned on this like thesis. And then it was just like, this makes total sense to like team up and like do something together.
Yeah.
And then it was a case of like under his guidance, basically sort of improving like the way I was going about getting them and like just taking it like more seriously, more professionally.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the next phase where it went from like having 100,000 to like a few 100,000, and things really started to scale. And then we reached a point where we kind of had all these names, but...
Hold on, before we get to that. So when I spoke with Jahan, he had basically said, I was going after the short tail of names and David was going after the long tail of names. Is that right? Was that an accident?
No, it was... Do you know what it was?
Lost them all to Jahan.
What it was like, I was time rich, cash poor, and he was the opposite. So it made logical sense that the allocation of names like fell into those two buckets. But you need if you're ever going to build a project, you need the smaller amount of names with the biggest population, but you also need like sheer volume of names, lower population. So it made total sense to just align. And we weren't even called Superlink at that point. We were just like teamed up. And we just I just buckled down, checked in with Jahan, just stayed on track. But the tough thing about it was, like I've watched HandyCon like every year that this has been on, but I've never like been able to get involved because it was so hard to have a conversation with people in the community, knowing that like I'm accumulating all of these things over here, and like you've got to kind of keep your cards close to your chest because you obviously want to. At some point, you've got to kind of come out there and be like, "This is what we've been doing."
How does this feel right now?
It honestly, man, like I was saying, like when we launched, it's just like a massive relief.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, because, you know, I'm super passionate about Handshake. I'm super passionate about the community. And I feel like we're building something awesome that can literally benefit everyone, but not being able to discuss it for like years. Because I just didn't want to be in the chats, like having to lie about stuff. Like it was just, so just, you know, got my blinkers on, got my head down, and got the job done basically. And then what happened was Jahan calls me. He's like, I think I've found the person who's going to be able to like steer the ship. And, you know, when we form this into like a proper company, move things forward. And that was you. And so we got on a call and we just clicked straight away. And then
what was that like?
Oh man, it was so good because it was like I knew we were building this like amazing like asset, but I'm not that guy. Like I'm not like a tech CEO. Like I have major imposter syndrome like in this world. And I think it's like I can bring what I can bring to it, and that's sort of the viewpoint from like the everyman. It's like, how does this translate to a product that the everyman is gonna like understand and like? But you know, you've built companies and successfully, and it's like that's like a whole other sphere to me, you know.
Well, I mean, you were equally blowing my mind in that conversation because I think Jahan hadn't prepared me for quite the scale of it. And so, and honestly, you know, it sounds funny and maybe not the right thing to say here, but like, you know, I'd sold the last company to GoDaddy. I didn't work on the domain side of the house at GoDaddy. I wasn't that excited about domains, to be honest. What got me interested was actually the digital identity side, and realizing like, well, actually the current kind of Web 2 domain world maps to like businesses. There's like 350 million traditional Web 2 domains. That's about the number of small businesses in the world. But here we have blockchain domains that can be, you know, it can be your sovereign digital identity or decentralized digital identity. It can work as your wallet. It can work as a website. It could work as an email. It could work as a phone number. Like that feels like something that every internet connected human on the earth is going to have.
It's inevitable.
Inevitable. Yeah.
So in fact, when did that penny drop?
At some point, I mean, you know, again, not, it sounds funny to say it, but like Unstoppable started talking about digital identity, and others in the Handshake, leaders in the Handshake community started talking about digital identity, who were selling domains, selling SLDs, started talking about this being digital identity. And that's kind of where it clicked for me, because my interest originally, so months before we talked, I had gotten into Handshake, but it was through mining. HNS. I had known Jahan. He'd kind of turned me on to mining. And actually, what also got me excited, and I know you think this is funny, is the emojis. And who knows what happens with emojis, but I just love it.
Just for everyone watching, not a fan of emojis. Sorry. Don't hate me.
I love them. And so I got my hands on a few kind of single character emojis. And then, you know, fast forward some months, talking with Jahan, he says, you got to talk with David. We got on great. And I just thought like, well, actually, this is so interesting because what you need to make this project work is critical mass, right? You need a certain amount so that like there can be a place to go to get this. And you also don't want to have like you actually want the ability to partner with lots of people as well so that you have a community. And it felt like
that was always the question. The question. Like, when do we like announce this? When we're at like 25% of the world, 40% of the world? Like where's the sweet spot? But when you think on your first instinct, you think I should own them all. That's the best strategy, but it isn't. The best strategy is own a super meaningful chunk and then partner with a bunch of other people who share the same mission.
Yeah.
which is exactly how it's played out. And it's just so cool how organically this has happened with like the different people involved, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's so nice. I just want to say to the people watching, it's been awesome when we've been like, we're here, like this is what we've done. Like it's been so positive and so supportive, and like, yeah, it's just thank you to everyone watching, because it's like been really good, really good.
Yeah. And honestly, because I feel like we're in this phase in the community where it's important that we sell SLDs. It's important that the whole community sells SLDs, but the utility of those SLDs is still limited, right? And it feels to me like it's critical that at this stage we go deep on integrations. And to the point of the apply for an HNS ring in your city today, like I think if there's anything that I would hope to kind of ask of the audience or love to get folks involved in, it's like, how do we get out there and create the integrations? Because the exciting piece here is the utility. It's David, I feel like you saw that day one. I mean, when we go out and we ask people about this, and or we tell them like, hey, you don't need .com, you don't need .io, and in fact, it's not just a website; it's all these other things. This is for a 21st century bank account, et cetera. People's eyes light up, right? They're the mainstream user who doesn't even know crypto gets super excited about that.
It's
And
built
so,
into people.
yeah,
It's built into people to want to own their identity.
yeah. Gosh, perfect way to say it.
Sorry, I cut you off again, Matt.
Well, no, but you're right. Like, and so, well, that's our mission, right? How do we make it super easy for everyone to own and use their identity? And I feel like we're kind of in the own phase, and even like the early part of the own phase, right? It's like we as a community are still figuring out how do we decentralize SLDs. We've decentralized TLDs, but now we need to figure out how do we decentralize SLDs. And there's various solutions, right? Impervious has done a great job. I know Namebase is coming out with a great solution soon too. There's going to be multiple solutions, but we're still in the own, and we need to get to the use, right? I think, one of the places, I guess, I feel like there's a lot of focus on websites within the Handshake community, and that's a great place to be focused. But I also think maybe we should be focused on the wallet side of things. I know for us as a company, that's something that really excites us. I think, for instance, Coinbase's announcement this morning about wallet as a service, and there'll be many more of those. I know Fireblocks is working on one too. Like, that stuff is stuff that Handshake should jump all over. And I think, honestly, my view is we have the opportunity to be like a cross-chain namespace that allows anyone to own and use their digital identity. And it's going to take a lot of work to get there. And so it's funny because I think, like, I see two sides of the coin here. One is like the amazing, beautiful kind of journey that you and Jahan have taken to get us here. And then the other is the amazing, beautiful journey that you and me and Jahan and the rest of the team need to take to get us to the kind of, how do we use these things? Because it's critical.
So Matt, we've only got a few minutes left, believe it or not. So do you want to show some stuff? You want to show some stuff quickly?
Oh gosh. Okay. We got carried away.
Mate, I told you.
I got carried away. I should say.
Did I tell you?
You did. You absolutely did. Okay. So if you haven't already been there, encourage you to jump on to superlink.me. We've put a lot of time and effort into trying to design a really professional experience here. You can quickly and easily do a search for any kind of first name, last name combo. If we don't have your name, I'm so sorry. We're working on getting it. We're also going to be offering an alternative if you want to kind of benefit from the utility that we're going to be building on kind of the Superlink ecosystem, but we don't have your name yet. We're going to be offering you kind of a 3-letter alternative to purchase and less expensive opportunity as well. the other thing I wanted to say here is like, so search for a name, it's here, get a name. We are announcing a HandyCon referral code. So pop onto Superlink, plug in HandyCon. It's already applied here, but if you go to checkout, you can apply it right here under discount code. Just plug in HandyCon, hit apply, you'll get 20% off.
It's worth mentioning as well, Matt, that the price of names varies, right?
Yeah,
so
100%.
You brought up a random name here.
Yep.
Our pricing is very accessible pricing. So I mean, a lot of names are as low as $20. You know.
Yeah, most prices are $20. If your name is something that ends in Smith, or Chen, it's going to be more expensive. It's based on population and demand. So the other thing that is awesome is if you bought your name or you haven't bought your name, we don't have it, buy a name for someone that we do have and gift it. You can just tap in here, click on gift this name. You plug in their name. I'm just going to gift it to myself so that I can maybe show it to you on a different account.
Typical Matt.
Gifting to myself. Oof. It's bad news bears. Now let me hop. Oh, yeah. Let me hop into the other account and show you how that looks to be gifted.
While you do that, I'm going to plug everything. So
yeah, go for it.
We're obviously on Twitter at SuperlinkMe, and obviously the website is superlink.me, and we also have a private Discord which you gain entry to if you grab a name. So if you buy your name, come into the Discord, join the community. We'd love you to join us. And as Matt said, if you're unable to join the community at the moment because we don't have your name, that problem is being solved imminently. So yeah, we'd love to see you all in there, and just reach out to us. Like, we want to hear from you. If you're in the community, say hi, introduce yourself. Yeah. How you getting on, Matt?
I don't know what's happening, but what I do want to show is actually this. If I can make it work.
It's worth saying as well, like when we built the site, it was important that we thought about the mass market here. Like, it's not obviously a crypto blockchain product, right? I believe that we're capable of bringing forward the sort of iPhone moment here, where you get to put this amazing thing, Handshake, that we all believe in a beautifully aesthetically pleasing product that the masses will understand, right? And so we hope that the community can sort of get behind us with that, and we feel super positive about it.
Totally. Yeah, and I just wanted to reiterate what you said earlier, David, in terms of thanking the community. Like, you guys have been amazing. Seriously appreciate it. I know there are some questions in the chat.
Okay, let's quickly do that.
Let's see, what do we got?
There's so many.
Okay.
A lot of people searching for Elon Musk. Yeah, so we get all the searches logged, and as you can imagine, interesting stuff gets searched.
Honestly, I thought about getting Musk. It was available at some point for 200,000 HNS. Now it's like some insane, ungodly number.
I feel like we've run out of time, or we're imminently running out of time.
Someone asked, why did you choose a forever model? Let's see. If you have some surnames, can I use Superlink to gift to others? Is it free?
Surnames.
So maybe that's a good point, Fernando. Like, we do have a partner program, and the whole point of the partner program is to get our coverage as close to 100% as we possibly can get to, and to share the earnings, of those TLDs with the partners. I'm not sure if this is what you're getting at, but if you have any of the surnames that you want to partner with us, feel free to choose the SLDs, the names on that surname that you want to keep, because, we have talked to a lot of folks whose last name is the name that they own and they're happy to partner, but they've got 10 members of their family that they want to keep that name for. So, we think that's a critical piece of the puzzle. And I guess if you were a partner and you wanted to gift some SLDs, that would fall into the same category. Non-Latin alphabets. Yeah, so funny, Colin. I got that asked earlier today too on Twitter DMs. We do not yet. I don't see any reason why we couldn't. We just haven't.
I think the main thing is like the sheer scale of what we've set out. I don't know if we even mentioned this, but what's the latest figure on how many last names we have, Matt? Because I don't think we actually mentioned that.
I think it's over 1.4 million now. Yeah.
So, and we're only half the world. So as you can imagine, just doing that and then you start going into different alphabets and stuff, it's obviously like massive task. So hi Mike.
Hey
Mike.
David.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening. How's everybody? I'm catching this session. It's amazing. I think everybody, I'm reading the chats, everybody's really proud to see Superlink. I think building on Handshake, right? So
I can't tell you what a relief that is. Like the amount of times in the last 3 years I've been like, is everyone going to hate me when I announced that like just being over here not saying anything for like 3 years? But like it's honestly just like so nice to hear stuff like that. It means a lot.
Yeah, you can see some great feedback. And I think a lot of people, myself, like you mentioned, I mean, I have my surname. I think a lot of people, it's like one of the first things people get is their surname. So, I'm talking to Matt about putting it into the bucket. I think, like he said, I have my name, my children, I built the sites for them already. So, I don't know if there's more kids coming, but I just what's the policy for my future kids,
Yeah, exactly. Just preserve a list of possible names.
See you guys grow, and I think everyone here is here to support you. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Mike.
That's awesome. Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah.
No, thanks too. I know, and you came in sponsoring too. I really appreciate that, and you're a growing startup here, and we all really appreciate everything. So, I mean, I think we're a little bit at time. But there's some raised hands. I mean, there's lots of questions. I think, what did you say how to reach out? I mean, I know you have your website. Is that the best way? Or maybe
we're both on Twitter.
A lot of people wanting to support and chip in or partner or whatever. Probably I know you have a partner link on the site. Is that the best?
But the best thing you can do, honestly, is buy a name for a friend. Spread the word. Bring them into the Discord. We're gonna be bringing utility fast and furious. Like that's what this is all about.
Yeah. I bought a name. I think I made a video too, and I bought my friend's name to get to him, and then I got to the Discord and everything. So it's great. So if everybody could chip in, especially with the discount you just dropped, just HandyCon, right? The coupon code.
That's it. Clean and simple. Awesome. HandyCon.
Nice and simple. Thank you so much. All right, awesome. I think we got to wrap at this point. I think Anne's in the other room, and I really appreciate both of you and Jahan, of course, too. So best of luck, and we'll be following your journey.
Thanks, man. See ya.
Cheers, guys. Okay. Bye-bye.
See everybody in the next session.